Presenting to us on embracing blockchain technology to leverage gaming operation benefits, please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to the CEO of BlockPass and QRC and legal strategist at Quanta, Mr. Adam Vaziri.
Hi. Hello? Great. Thank you very much for hearing me out. Just a little bit of background about myself. I was one of the first blockchain lawyers in Europe. I started back in 2013. And from 2013 to now, which is now 5 years, I've been working on various projects to help essentially bring blockchain into the mainstream and crypto into the mainstream. And that's done essentially by taking a conventional business model, such as a bank, such as a payment service, or such as a lottery, and reinventing it on the blockchain. But when you do that, you have to understand that those industries are highly regulated. And so, as you can see, the crypto industry worked without regulations. It took time for the regulations to catch up. You heard from the panelists today about initiatives to create regulations. But for a period of time, there were practically no regulations that existed. And so innovators in the space didn't really have much certainty. And so they proceeded essentially without any oversight. But there are certain areas and certain activities and areas of major disruption that are tightly regulated. And one of them is lottery. Lottery is, practically speaking, one of the most tightly regulated industries on the planet. Not only is it regulated at a domestic level, but it's often a monopoly of the state. So it's a very difficult market to enter into, but it's a market that can greatly benefit from crypto technology and blockchain. The main impetus, if you will, is providing transparency and auditability around how a result is generated and who is the winner, and providing that provability or provable fairness, as they call it within the industry. That's the main, if you want, impetus of leveraging blockchain. And so back in 2015, I was approached to work and design and implement the first crypto-regulated lottery on the planet. No other business had got a license of this nature. And we worked in probably the most popular jurisdiction, one of the most popular jurisdictions for online gaming, which is the Isle of Man. You may know that, but we worked approximately about 1.5 years in building the technology. This was a fully integrated Ethereum lottery system. There were no servers involved. So can you imagine what it was like to approach a regulator and explain to them that practically we did not have a server, that everything would be happening on-chain, from the transaction of the purchase of the ticket, the registration of the customer, the whitelisting of their address in the lottery smart contract, to the random number generation system, which would happen on-chain, to the designation of the winners and the payout of the winners. Every single part of that business process was an on-chain Ethereum smart contract. And so for the first crypto lottery in the world to approach a regulator and ask them to license something that's so innovative, it was extremely challenging. But it took some time to educate them, to explain them how we manage the risks, including cyber risks of running this operation. But in the end, they were happy to issue the first license in the world for a crypto lottery. And so that was 2016. And what you'll find also, which was quite unbelievable, was, as you may know or not, if you have operated or have some awareness of the online gaming industry, fairness is a big thing. So in the casino market, for example, when you play an online game, there is a number in the background which they call a random number generator. And this random number generator has to have some statistical, they call it entropy, which then can ensure that it's truly random, that it's not predictable, that it won't essentially be skewed to favor the house rather than the players. And every single licensed operator has to have their RNG, random number generator, certified. And so one of the testing houses, one of the most famous ones is NMI. They produced the first test certificate for a fully on-chain RNG. So that was also an industry first. So this is a random number generation system that's happening entirely on-chain, and they certified it as fair. So we believe that, that was our perception, that in order to bring lottery or blockchain into the mainstream, we have to rebuild the industries such as banking, lottery, gaming, all other sectors, and rebuild them entirely on a blockchain stack with no dependency on the real world. So that is what we did, and we achieved the license to operate. I'll show you just a brief video on that, if it works. So this, as I explained, this is all happening on-chain. So the pool is actually on-chain. You can see the pool grow as people buy more tickets. The drawing, the RNG, and the prize distribution on-chain. So the first version of the Quanta lottery was in Ether, the pool being in Ether. That's it. Okay, so, look, there are different variants afterwards. When you're building a crypto lottery, we built it entirely on a public chain, but there are issues around scalability, which you can imagine. If you're running a lottery system and you have a transaction throughput of 30 transactions a second, it may not be sufficient for running a national lottery at peak times. So what we have had to do since then is hybridize or make hybrid the model so that we can address issues such as scalability. I'm not going to explain to you what blockchain is. Obviously, you already know that. But the main, as I was saying from the beginning of this talk, the main point of this is transparency. And lotteries are one of those things where you don't really know what's going on in the background. You don't really have that interaction with the lottery operator that in a way you could say, okay, well, I know that I'm a winner and I know that it's been done in a fair manner. We just trust that the state is doing a good job or the licensed operator is doing a good job. Now, if you take that problem of not being able to prove that it's been done correctly, and you apply that in developing markets, which we are concentrating on. We're not concentrating on trying to add transparency to lottery markets, for example, in the Western world. We're looking at developing markets where people are leapfrogging into the mobile telephony, and they want to access gaming services. But in that, they want to have some kind of relationship with the operator that gives provable fairness. Yeah, so we're working with different countries. We're concentrating on the developing markets in particular, but you can understand that when we approach these new markets, they are quite skeptical about new technologies such as blockchain because they don't really appreciate quite in the early stage how they will benefit from those technologies or what the externalities will be, such as price movements on the crypto assets, or even cybersecurity issues that may occur. So there is an element of education in the way that we have to approach our stakeholders. But the opportunity is absolutely huge. The online gaming industry is one of those industries that is a kind of marriage made in heaven for crypto, because if you're able to offer that level of transparency on-chain for all participants, then it creates a better relationship between the users and the operators, strengthens that rapport, and gives a better ability to the regulator to do their job and hold nefarious operators accountable because of that element of transparency. Yeah, so Quanta is looking for stakeholders, looking for people or operators or interested parties that are interested in kind of leveraging blockchain technology for gaming. You can follow us on Telegram. I'm happy to take any questions about what we do at Quanta, and that I can carry on a little bit more about the challenges we faced.
Sorry. It's on.
Yeah, I got that question. So the question was, are we interested in providing a white label service? Certainly. We have infrastructure. It's fully licensed in the Isle of Man. It's a, if you want an agnostic license, it can be used for betting, it can be used for lottery, it could be used for any forms of gaming. The infrastructure is there. So we are very interested in working with other stakeholders that may have a business idea and that want to leverage that infrastructure that, of course, includes the license, but also the random number generation system that's on-chain and all of that support, as well as operational support on island. Yeah, certainly that's, we're looking at that. So, you know, it's ironic because we're sitting here and there's a casino above us. I live in Hong Kong. We're just by Macau. You know, gaming is whether you know it's one of those sectors that we cannot avoid. It's a growing sector. It is huge, and blockchain can provide a real strong foundation for that sector, whether it's land-based or on-chain. But the most interesting use cases are on-chain, because when you think about it, even just from an investor point of view, if you invest in, say, a security token, it's just an example, that's connected to a smart contract, that's connected to a lottery system, you can see the performance of that business in real time, and you can get an access to that performance in real time. So when you start to build the world on blockchain, then the actual financial instruments, and we were talking earlier about security tokens, become far more interesting and far more disruptive. Just a brief update. There will be an announcement over the coming weeks about Quanta, which should be fairly groundbreaking in terms of our goal, which is to bring blockchain or lottery bring blockchain into the mainstream. And lottery is one of those great things that is so mainstream. Everyone in their life has probably bought one lottery ticket. So it's a great way of expressing the power of crypto, you know, through the fact that it's so mainstream lottery in of itself. Any other questions?
Hello, can you hear me? So one more. You're operating out of Hong Kong. Your company is licensed in the Isle of Man. How if you're offering, let's say, a white label service on another business platform, how, in your experience, are those offerings perceived if it's on chain by other jurisdictions? Do we need to attain, let's say I was white labeling your technology, would I have to go for licensing or approval or in the jurisdictions that I operate in?
Yeah, online gaming, obviously lottery is tightly regulated and monopolized, but online gaming is still a fairly, it's a regulated market, generally at a local level, but it's a fairly open market to a certain extent. We would provide the infrastructure for you to operate from the Isle of Man into other markets. We would, of course, work with you on compliance as you provide your service into those new markets and how you're accessing those customers. So we provide support in that regard. All right. Well, that's Quanta, and so that's really the first groundbreaking application of blockchain entirely for a lottery, and fully regulated, fully licensed, audited. So you got all of that transparency that you expect in the real world for a regulated industry, but all of it operating on blockchain as well. So it's like a double transparency layer. So thank you very much for your time listening, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Adam Vaziri. Can we have another round of applause for Adam, please?